What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Second Avenue Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathon and Elijah.
I'm your other host, Elijah. Welcome back, guys, of course. It's been a few days, Jonathan. How have you been?
I've been pretty good here. We got a lot of snow over the past couple of days, close to 15 inches here in Bloomington. How about over in Danville?
Over in Danville is, a little more reasonable amount, 8, which is still way too much, but it's a reasonable amount. Nothing compared to you, though. I mean, you almost doubled that, of course.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I haven't left the house since like Wednesday, I think, or Tuesday, I guess. So, because I didn't have class either Wednesday or Thursday. Not great, but hey, we're hanging in there.
Back in quarantine almost.
That's how it feels. But hey, other than that, we'll let the viewers in on a little something. Elijah and I, we play in a men's basketball league here. We're not recording the podcast. Season not off to such a hot start. You want to tell the people a little bit how we're doing?
It's been pretty rough. I think we're 0-4 now.
We are.
It's been rough to say the least. It's just usually have been playing with the 6 players. Where we're dealing with 10-man benches. So I mean,
yeah. I mean,
things are looking up for us though. We're building. We're each week's a building block, as Coach Stevens would say.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Stevens. He's got a vision for the future. And hey, we all bought into that vision. So I think soon we're gonna start seeing some wins. I hope. Hopefully we can turn around this week. We'll see. But yeah, it's been a rough start. Like you said, we're playing against some teams with some deep benches, and we only got 6 players, so we get tired fast. We're not in high school anymore. This is not ideal, but hey, it's all about having fun. That's what my mom said. I got home after one of our games. We literally got beat by the mercy rule of 40 points. Mom was like, "At least you guys had fun." I was like, "No, I didn't have fun. We lost by 40 points." Like, I was pissed, but whatever.
Mercy rule has been a common theme for you in these leagues, huh?
It has. I'm also in another basketball league here at Illinois State for intramural basketball, and my team has got beat by the mercy rule for the first 2 weeks of the season. It's not been great, but I think we played like a really good team, like the best team in the league the first week. I was looking at the standings and the results, and the team they beat this last week, they scored 13 points. They got beat by like 60. So I think they're a really good team. So I was okay with that one because I played with a lot of those guys before at the rec too. But this last week, that team was just not very good. We just were worse. But I really think we're going to turn around both leagues. I'm just in a rough
Seems
patch.
Like a potential W on the board for you guys there with that 13-point outing. So, I mean.
Yeah, that was the team the other team played against.
Yeah, no. Once you play them, of course.
Oh, sad news about that. I looked at the schedule and we do not play them.
That's usually how it works. That seems like that's how it's working in the Paxton League as well. But
yep,
what can you do?
When the bracket comes out, we got a strength of schedule of top of the league, so I think we're gonna make the tournament. So
strength of schedule is on our side.
It is.
With all that being said, let's get into this week. We're gonna do a little what we're most excited for in 2022, along with a few other things. So why don't we kick it off with some albums you're excited for?
All right. I think we're going to go back and forth here, but the first album I'm excited for this year is Soul Sold Separately, or SSS, by Freddie Gibbs. Freddie Gibbs, obviously such a great rapper, such a consistent rapper. If you look at his discography, he's had multiple albums I would consider classics throughout his career, and especially as of late. His last project, Alfredo, was nominated for Rap Album of the Year at the Grammys. Such a great project. So I'm really excited to see what Freddie is working on right now. He's had recent singles like Gang Signs with Schoolboy Q and Black Illuminati with Jadakiss. And he actually tweeted it last year that the production on this album was going to be handled by Madlib, Alchemist, Boy Wonder, Pharrell, DJ Paul, Tay Keith, K Tronada, and even more. So those are some legendary producers, honestly. So I'm really excited to see what this project's going to sound like. Are there any of these producers you're looking forward to hearing Freddie Gibb work with?
The first two that you started off with, Madlib and Alchemist, though, I mean, the whole lineup is just huge producers, of course, but those are the two that I'm looking forward to the most. I really like the single you put out as well with Schoolboy Q,
Oh yeah, Gang Signs, definitely a great song. And I mean, Freddie has such a history with Madlib and Alchemist, so it's really going to be excited to see if they can take that to the next level on these projects. So pretty excited for that.
Is that a Freddie Gibbs hoodie you're rocking there?
Of
Trying
course.
to keep it there. There we go. Yeah.
Shout out to Big Rabbit Freddie Gibbs. Obviously a callback to his other single, Big Boss Rabbit, as well. Don't know how many of those singles are going to make the album, because I mean 3 singles for the album's a lot, especially when there's not even a release date already. So we'll see, but all those have been great songs. So I'm very excited to see what Freddie's been working on.
Definitely. Kicking off mine, we touched on a little bit last week. 12 Carat Toothache with Post Malone. His last project he dropped was Hollywood is Bleeding, and that one fell short of the other two projects I'd felt. Um, he does have one single out right now with The Weeknd. He dropped that in November, I believe, and I really enjoyed the single. What did you think of it?
You mentioned it before that I'm not the biggest Post Malone fan, but I've stated that I am obviously a huge fan of The Weeknd. So going to that track, I didn't really know what to expect. I was obviously excited to hear some new stuff from The Weeknd because that was before Donda FM. But I was like, oh, him and Post, like, I feel like that's gonna be some like super sellout song. It was okay. I don't listen to it very often, but I wouldn't complain if somebody was playing it. So it's all right, but we'll see. We'll see what comes from Post on this album.
Definitely a solid single on there, and I like that he's keeping it under 45 minutes with this project. I feel like that was something that with Hollywood's Bleeding that it didn't give me. That Stony, it was a shorter album, and it just I just like that, and then I just felt like there are a lot of filler tracks in Hollywood's Bleeding. That's kind of what dragged it down a little bit for me personally.
Yeah, I definitely did not listen to all of Hollywood's Bleeding. I don't know how long it was or how many tracks, honestly, but definitely didn't make it through the whole album. I listened to obviously like the songs with Travis and all the popular ones that you cannot escape, like Circles and all those songs, which I actually don't mind some of those songs. So I know Post like is definitely a talented artist. So I'm excited to see what he's working on because he's taking a little bit of time off. So I'm excited.
We'll see. I think we're definitely both excited for a lot of these albums to drop, and we can put some reviews out on them and everything. So
Definitely. I mean, especially with people like him, for me personally, like I'll at least give it a listen. Like he's such a big artist that, I got to give him a little bit of respect and see if he's leveled up with his project.
of course.
Moving on to somebody that will obviously level up every project. Everybody's got to expect it. Kendrick Lamar. Nobody knows what this album's going to be called, when it's going to come out, but it's going to come out. I mean, he dropped that thing last year talking about this being his last project with TDE. So it's got to come out sometime soon. I think he used the word soon in that press release deal. So I feel like we got to be waiting for this any time, honestly. What do you think? Are you excited for this Kendrick album, obviously?
Definitely. I mean, honestly, every album, I was going back through it today, back through his discography, and everything he has put out project wise has been a hit. I mean, he has a very strong discography. There's not very many misses in terms of projects on there. And although we don't have too much information, it's definitely worth the mention and something for all of us to be excited about.
Yeah, definitely. I would say Kendrick has never missed on a project. I mean, songs here and there, I guess you could make an argument for, maybe even something like Overly Dedicated, but I mean, that's just a stepping stone for Kendrick. I mean, that was just part of his journey to get where he was going. And he's delivered masterpiece after masterpiece since then, and multiple classics in his catalog. So, I mean, what do you think this album from Kendrick is going to sound like? We got that single from Baby Keem's album. So that was really the last taste of Kendrick we've gotten. So do you think he'll go in a new direction with this project?
I definitely think that is a direction he's heading in because just from his features on Keem's album, with Range Brothers and Family Ties, he was just having, this experimental sound, really. It's just something we had never heard from Kendrick before. I'm hoping we get some classics, we get classic Kendrick back a little bit, but I'm also interested to see, what he comes out with.
Definitely. I think it'd be difficult for him to miss at this point in his career. I mean, he's just such a respected artist and he's such a creative mind that I feel like he's going to deliver a masterpiece every time he drops. I actually saw something that speculated that this album was going to go in a more rock sound, which I think would be very interesting for Kendrick. There was actually another version of the song Vent from the Melodic Blue, and it had a Kendrick verse on it. And that's a pretty unique instrumental. So I really think we could see Kendrick going in a direction more like Vent. What do you think about that? How do you like that?
Definitely. And that's something we've touched on almost both weeks now. It's I love when artists are able to mix and match genres, bring the rock sounds with the rap vocals. So it's something I'm very interested in, of course.
Definitely, especially somebody like Kendrick who has access to basically any producer and any collaborator he could dream of. I mean, you look back at Damn with XXX featuring U2. I mean, obviously that's a very interesting collaboration that I would not have expected before Damn came out, but I think it turned out pretty well. And I'd be excited to see him go a little bit more that direction.
Definitely. And that's something that I love once we get, these huge projects from, guys like Kendrick or Drake even. Like that's on Scorpion. Back to Scorpion when Drake had he had Michael Jackson's vocals on one of his songs. Like there's only, a handful of rappers that can access stuff like that or, get that stuff. So
Definitely. I don't think the estate of Michael Jackson would really just hand those out to just anybody. And Drake is one of the very few people that they would allow to use Michael's vocals on a song. So that was pretty cool to see. I did actually like that song a lot. What's your next selection for album you're most excited for this year?
my next selection, I have Hendrix 2 by Future on here. He took a gap year for the first time since 2015, I believe, without, his first year without dropping a project. The thing that has me the most excited for this project is him and Drake have been spotted in the same studio. And then obviously he's been producing Donda Ii for Kanye a little bit. So it's something to be very excited about, Future's like the king of trap, of course. And I've been revisiting DS2 a lot this week. It's been constant in my rotation. So it's getting a little back into Future. So I'm hoping that album, we get a single or something here soon.
Definitely. We're talking about basketball at the start of this episode. Future has been heavy in the rotation on the way to those games. I love the song Jersey off of What a Time to Be Alive. Such a great track before a game, as well as some tracks off of DS2. Obviously, Blood on the Money, Stick Talk, classic hype songs.
And backtracking a little bit to, the Drake collaborations, it just feels like anytime those two are together in the studio, they can't miss, It's one of my favorite duos in rap. So hopefully we get another few bangers from them.
Definitely one of the best duos in rap right now. I mean, Life is Good, even that was one of my favorite songs from the year it dropped, 2020. So definitely excited to see what those two could bring on a new track. The third album I chose was a new album from Sampha. Sampha is a singer from the UK. His last album was Process in 2017. And it was one of my favorite albums of that year. Sampha would probably be most known for his features with Drake and Kanye on Too Much and St. Pablo, which are two of my favorite songs off both of those albums. And I really think he's one of those artists that really elevates whatever track he's on. And I really think he was able to just deliver such a great project on his own with Process back in 2017. Such a great album. It actually came out 5 years ago this week. And for that anniversary, he dropped a bonus edition of the album with 2 new tracks that were previously only available on the Japanese version of the album. So that was really cool to see. One of the tracks was just an instrumental, but still cool just to see that he's actively considering putting out new music. And he also posted online that he was excited about the new music he had in store for the fans. So exciting to see. I think we'll definitely get that this year. Do you have a favorite moment from Sampha?
I love Too Much. That's one of my favorite Drake tracks off one of my favorite Drake albums. And even, touching on St. Pablo a little bit, just the vocals on there, amazing, and everything from him. Given the album a few listens here lately, since I noticed earlier in the week that you put him in the notes, it's going back a little bit. And you're exactly right. Process was a very good album. He's a very good artist and kind of flies under the radar, but hopefully we can get a very good project from him.
Definitely. He's definitely under the radar. I think maybe that's just in the United States, though. I feel like he's probably very popular across the pond, but I think this album could really take him that next level here in the United States. So we'll see about that. I mean, so many great tracks on that last project. So I really think he'll be able to deliver something special with this new project.
Definitely. And taking it into the third album that I'm third project per se that I'm most excited for is the Pink Tape by Lil Uzi. His last project was Eternal Take, and he also had the collaborative album with Future as well. What were your thoughts on, his last 2 projects that he did?
Man, I actually remember you came to ISU for a campus visit the day after Eternal Take dropped, right?
That was the day of the Friday that it dropped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was Friday because I remember I listened to it like on Thursday night and then Friday. So yeah, because I remember I was like waiting for you outside of like a classroom in a meeting for it. I was like listening to it and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Like whatever. I feel like it was one of those albums that I really enjoyed when it first dropped, but it didn't really stick in my rotation as much as I would have hoped and as much as past Uzi projects have. So I'm kind of hoping he'll go back a little bit to that mixtape style that really made him popular. I feel like that might not be the case. I feel like he might go on to a new sound here because he's been kind of experimental with his sound. He hasn't really stayed too similar, I guess. not as experimental as somebody like Playboy Cardi with his different sounds, but I think he has switched up a little bit. So I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, I mean, just drawing back to that a little bit, that day, I probably saved 10 songs off the album, and like you said, none of them have really stuck in my rotation since. I don't know if it was just maybe the quarantine, because the quarantine came right after that, so many artists weren't dropping too much or doing too much. So we'll blame it on that. But he has been experimenting with rage and drill beats for the new Nigo
Mm.
album, so it's something excited to see. I'm excited to see personally. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think Uzi's a pretty good artist. And I mean, those rage beats go pretty hard. So I'd definitely be excited to see how that sounds. And I mean, we talked about this Nigo project last week a little bit. So I'm very excited for that. Honestly, I feel like there's going to be a lot of different sounds on it. So I'm excited to see how it's going to be put together in a somewhat cohesive way. So we'll see when that drops. I'm excited.
My last point on the little Uzi, he has never missed on a mixtape, so I have high hopes for it.
I'll agree with that. He has never missed. I definitely remember hearing that Uzi back in 2016. He's one of those artists that just blew up in 2016 and made that a special year. So I mean, I'm definitely excited to see that. The feeling like when you first heard Uzi was definitely a special feeling. If you heard the song Money Longer, it just hit a little bit different. So I'm excited to see if we'll get back to that feeling.
Hopefully.
Moving on here to my next project, I chose The Forever Story by JID. JID, very great rapper from Dreamville. Excited to see what's coming next from him. I mean, he's been pretty quiet. He just dropped a single called Surround Sound with 21 Savage and Baby Tate in January, which was honestly such a great track. Did you give this song a listen? What do you think about it?
I did. 21 Savages. He had one of my favorite verses of the year so far. I mean, we're not very far into it, but I think it'll stick for the rest of the year, hopefully. I'm excited to see what he does though. I love Dreamville. I love all J. Cole, all the artists he works with and everything. So I'm hoping we get some more J. Cole tracks on there. So
definitely. I mean, JID is just such a great rapper that I really don't think he can miss when he puts all the time in and all that effort in. He is not so large on a scale like we were talking about earlier with Kendrick, but I really think he's one of those artists that has access to just about any producer because of his ties to Dreamville and J. Cole. So I'm pretty excited to see what he gives with his next project. So definitely excited for that. Do you have a favorite song from JID?
I'd go with Down Bad off Revenge of the Dreamers 3. I know it's technically not his own personal song, but his vocals in that and just his sound in that are just amazing, of course. What about you?
Definitely. I mean, he obviously killed that track. Did you ever see the video? He was performing in Champaign, actually, and he brought a fan on stage, and the fan rapped every verse from that song like flawlessly. It was crazy. Have you seen that video?
I have not. I'll have to go back and check that out. I love when artists do that. It's just so impressive, and
it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's good to see the ones that just kill it for sure.
It was crazy, and it was especially because it was in Champaign. I was like, I wanted to go to that concert, but it was actually one of my friend's bachelor parties. So I couldn't go, but otherwise I would have been there. Maybe it could have been me. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know every verse. That would have been rough if he was like, "Oh, this kid's killing it. Let's bring him on." I would have flopped. It would not have been a good sight. But my favorite JID song, I would probably say, I think I'd have to go with Slick Talk off of DiCaprio 2. I thought it's such a great track. Just great energy from JID. So excited to see what's next.
Yes, and this will be a great project for sure. Moving on to my fourth project here, Utopia by Travis Scott. It's been a while since we had Travis. Jack Boys back in 2019, which is a few years back now. In my opinion, I thinking about this point earlier. I think Travis Scott with Astroworld, he had the last classic album that I heard. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not mad at that take. I think it's very difficult to classify an album as a classic, especially an album so recent as that. So I don't know, but I definitely think with time it will be.
Yeah, I think that's definitely I think everybody has a different time frame set, for what it takes to be a classic. What would you say your amount of years would be to consider something a classic?
I don't know, because I mean, there's some albums where you just know. Like I think when To Pimp a Butterfly dropped, you just knew. Even when Good Kid, Mad City dropped, you just knew. But I think there's other albums where it takes a little bit of time. So I'd say definitely at least 5 years. I feel like
Okay, I respect that. Mine's a little bit shorter, so I'm able to consider it a classic now, whereas you'll be a couple years behind. But I think about it, you give it a few years, constantly sticking in the rotation, and it's just with Astroworld, it's just such a huge project, just outside of music even. So it's definitely something that I hope we get back from Travis. I hope we get classic tracks back and everything. He did drop the single. He had a couple songs, Mafia and Escape Plan, that he dropped in November of 2021. And I have to say I wasn't too impressed, but I I know Trav will come through with a fantastic album. So
Yeah, I don't think those songs were bad, but they weren't on the level of any of his last projects, really. So I'm hoping he brings it a little bit stronger. And I'd be really interested to see how the whole Astroworld incident changes the sound of this album, because Travis has built his sound on rage and on energy. Do you think he's going to stray away from that with all the controversy?
I mean, truthfully, I hope not. But I mean, I could see both sides where he does and where he doesn't. I just hope he sticks true to himself and is able to come out with something that's not just an entirely different sound just because of that.
Well, I think it'd be kind of interesting if he did come with a completely different sound, if it was something that hasn't really been done before. But I do agree with you. I hope he sticks with a sound that blew him up, because it's just such a great artist with really just in his own lane in a certain way. I mean, he's got different tracks with really unique production. If you look at like Astro Thunder and tracks like that off of Astro World, I really like some of those. Those are less hype than some of his tracks, but just such great tracks in general. So I'm hoping he sticks with what made him popular.
Yeah, and so I mean, for me, songs like Astro Thunder and some of the lesser known tracks are what make Astro World such a great album. It's just because I mean, just through and through, it's flawless. So
Hot
let's
take.
move on to your yeah, that is a hot take, but
Flawless. I wouldn't throw on the F word on that project, but very good. Moving on here to my next project I chose to discuss for the album I'm most excited for this year. I chose the new No Worries project. No Worries, a duo made up of Knowledge and Anderson .Paak. They had an album called Yes Lord back in 2016, which was very good. That was shortly after I got into Anderson .Paak, probably just over a year or so. I was really excited to get new music from him, because that was the first album that was new that I was listening when it dropped, and I was listening to Anderson. So very excited to see something new from them, because Knowledge is such a great producer. Some of you may know him from his Meek Mill work. He actually, I don't know if you know this even, he has a bunch of projects where he just takes Meek Mill freestyles and verses and puts them on his own production and releases them. And they actually all just got taken down because one of them got claimed, and he was like, screw it, I'm taking them all down. And they honestly were better than the Meek Mill songs. There's this one called Same Old Meek, and it is crazy. If you have not heard Same Old Meek by Knowledge, find it on YouTube, find it somewhere. It's not on streaming services anymore, but you gotta give it a listen. It is one of the best songs I've ever heard.
coming from an Eagles fan, that's tough to do my boy Meek like that, but I think everybody else needs to go give the songs a listen, give it a try before we get to judging his take there.
I don't think it's a hot take at all. Meek is such a big artist. We talk about access to production and stuff like that. We talked about a lot this episode, but Meek, he can work with so many different producers. I feel like a lot of his beats are definitely kind of similar. He's definitely very good. He chooses good beats, but they're kind of similar. These are just such a different sound than anything Meek's done before. So it was really cool to hear him on it.
Definitely respectable, of course. So moving into my fifth project, which I'm sure you'll hear about every podcast we'll have for until it comes out, is Donda Ii by Kanye. His last project being Donda, of course. We don't have too much on that. We've seen a few artists he's working with, Pusha T, of course. He's in the lab with Future, guys like IDK, 504, and we'll touch on that a little bit too. But we don't have too much in terms of track lists and everything yet. But yeah, hopefully we're getting there with the album supposed to be coming out in 18 days. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's obviously such an anticipated project. So, I mean, I think this is one where we're going to get into it a lot more here with the news this week, because there were a lot happening here with this project. Obviously, like every Kanye project, there's so much coverage on every move he makes, especially when he's in album mode. So we'll get into this a little bit later with the album, about the news from this week. All right, so the last album I'm excited for this year is Ramona Park Broke My Heart by Vince Staples. Vince Staples is one of my favorite artists. Last year, he had such a great project with his self-titled project, Vince Staples, short 10-track project. It was an LP, actually, was classified as, and this is going to be an album. As it was announced in a GQ interview, he actually has this project, Ramona Park Broke My Heart, and a new Netflix show coming this year. How do you feel about this? Are you excited for the show or the album? Which one more?
I mean, I'm definitely excited for the show, but I definitely the album trumps it, of course. Like you said, with his album coming out last year, self-titled, it was just such a great album. And Ramona Park's been so prominent all throughout his career. So I think both of us are definitely excited to hear this project.
Definitely. I think the self-titled project was such a good look into what makes him him. And I think this is going to be even more of that. I mean, sounds like it'll be pretty personal. Ramona Park Broke My Heart. I mean, definitely hopefully to get a look more into his upbringing and then his coming up as a rapper as well. So, excited for that. But the Netflix show, Vince Staples is like my favorite person in music. He is hilarious, such a witty guy. I mean, if you look at any of the things he's done, from like the Hot Ones interview, or even he had a series on GQ where he would like rate NBA players' outfits and if they were tough guys or fake tough guys. It was crazy. He's just such a funny guy, such an interesting guy. So I'm really excited to see what the show's going to be, because there's not much information about it out there besides that there's a show out there with Vince Staples and it's bearing his name, is what the article said. So excited for that.
Definitely,
we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely will say he is built for a show. It's going to be a very good show.
Yes, he is like the definition of, like, when you say somebody's a character, Vince Staples is a character. Like, that man's got personality oozing out of his pores.
Definitely.
Obviously, there's a lot more albums that we're excited for coming this year, but these are just a few that, we're extra excited for. So we'll obviously talk about more of these albums, especially as they are getting near their release dates. So we'll see about those and how they stack up to our anticipation. But moving on here, we're going to do a few hot takes from this year. First, I think that Kendrick Lamar will drop a new track in the next 2 weeks. This might sound crazy, but he is performing at the Super Bowl halftime show next weekend with Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, and Mary J. Blige.
I think that's definitely a bold take, but I'm with it. That would just be great marketing to perform it at the halftime show of all halftime shows. The biggest one you can get, of course. So I'm all for it. Marketing wise, I'm not sure, but hey,
I just can't see him doing an old song. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I could see him doing like Humble, or I don't even know, because he's probably only gonna have one song to perform because there's so many other artists. I think it's only like a 12 or 14-minute show. So I think he's got to do something big with his couple minutes he gets. So we'll definitely see it, especially being in LA, where he's from. Such a important moment in his career. I feel like there's not too many rappers that have had the chance to perform at the halftime show. So I really think this is a big opportunity for him to do something really special and really monumental in his career. So we'll see.
Definitely. And like, I was saying, there's not a stage bigger than the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't be surprised at it. I don't know how confident I am in it, for sure.
Definitely. I like we talked about, it's such a big stage where something could happen. The thing that I wanted to happen so bad was back in 2019 at the Super Bowl. It was Maroon 5, but they had Travis Scott and Big Boy, and the Super Bowl was in Atlanta. I would have bet anything. I remember that there was like actual props on like betting apps and stuff that you could bet that there would be an Outkast reunion at halftime. That would have been like the craziest moment ever, but instead it was just Big Boy and then Travis obviously separately, and then Maroon 5. A whole lot of Maroon 5, not too much of the rappers, which I was pretty bummed out by, but I did enjoy Travis and Big Boy's parts.
Definitely. Moving on to my first take. I don't know how hot of a take this will be, but I don't think we're going to receive a Drake project for the first time since 2014. What are your thoughts on that?
Has it really? He hasn't dropped.
Every year he's had something out. I mean, one year we did have Care Package, but
okay,
it was good to get that on streaming. I consider that him dropping a project.
I'll take it. That's something. I mean, whatever. But Drake's one of those artists that there's so much music he's put out over the past decade. I do think it could be, useful for him to take a year off and regroup and develop artistically and just put out something entirely new and just really make a project that's a classic. I feel like every album he has, some people consider it classics, but he doesn't have that one definitive classic. And I really think if he took some time off and figured out something new or worked with a whole bunch of different artists that, motivated him, I think that could be the recipe for a classic.
Definitely. And I just, we just haven't had, for me personally, I haven't had a Drake album that I've revisited every single year since Views. So, I mean, I think we're definitely due, and we'll see what happens, of course. My thing, that kind of strengthens my take is every single year Drake's, teasing these albums earlier in the year, and then we don't get it, it's delayed, then it's delayed. And, so, and that hasn't happened yet. So I could be wrong, but I am pretty confident in that take.
No, I think I agree with you on that one. I think there's so many artists that do take that year off between projects. Drake hasn't been one of them, but if you look at other artists that do have more critical acclaim, like Tyler, like Kendrick, like Frank Ocean, Drake's bigger than they are in the public eye, but I mean, doesn't get the respect that some of those guys get. So I think it could be good for him to take some time off.
Definitely.
Moving on to my next take here, I think that Chance the Rapper will drop a great album and regain the respect of fans. Do you think this is a hot take, or do you think this is a cold take?
I don't think it's a very hot take. I think it's something that needs to happen. It's something that the fans want to happen, of course. He's gonna have to come out with something big to regain that respect, of course. So it'll be definitely interesting to see, but I kind of agree with you on that, of course.
Definitely. I mean, you take a look back at that first run of those 3 mixtapes that Chance had. He was like the golden boy of rap. I mean, we talk about Travis getting so much love in marketing. Chance was the same way. Look at the Kit Kat ad, as he had an ad with Twitter. Such love from businesses and fans. So I really think he can get back to that level. I mean, if you look at his song he dropped last year called The Heart and the Tongue, it was only on YouTube, which I was kind of surprised by. Like, if he's trying to regain the respect, I feel like he's got to put that out there and get it heard by everybody. I looked it up on YouTube today. It only has like 3 million views, which is fairly low compared to a lot of other songs that are pretty popular. So I definitely think he just needs to get music out there. I do really hope he addresses the situation with the Big Day on this project. What do you think about that? Do you think that's something he'd do? Do you think it might be something he'll avoid?
I mean, I'm interested to see, how he reacts to that. He hasn't, like you said, he's doing all these advertisements and everything. He kind of has been out of the public eye since the Big Day dropped, and I just feel like he's overhated almost. The guy had one bad project before. He had dropped so many solid projects, back to back to back, and he had one album flop, and people are acting like he's never good.
Yeah, I feel like the thing is also some of these kids that hate on him just haven't gone back to the older stuff, because I feel like there's a lot of like kids on TikTok that like just overhate Chance.
Ratio plus Young Boy better.
Exactly. And it's like, you haven't even given a listen to the old songs. But I feel like also, is it just the nostalgia that makes me such a Chance fan? Like, is it just because I grew up with it? Because some of these songs I go back on, I'm like, that production's like a little bit dated, like that bar's a little corny, but I still love the project. So I don't know. I definitely think he's going a different direction, obviously, with the Big Day. He's in such a different place in his life than he was with those other projects. So I don't expect him to sound the same as he did on those projects. So I'm hoping he can take his old sound, make it mature, really polish the production, and just deliver another great album. So excited to see. We'll see.
Definitely. My last hot take, I don't know how hot of a take this one is either, but I think Kanye West will have his best album since The Life of Pablo with Donda Ii. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that's that hot of a take, just because obviously Jesus is King is like universally his lowest album. Like, I think just about anybody would say that. Yay is solid, but it's not up to the standard of some of those other projects. And Donda was pretty good. Donda was definitely a good comeback after those two. So I think it's a lukewarm take.
Definitely. And I love Ye. I just think, you're like you said, it's just not on the level of some of his other classic projects. And then the only thing with Donda, kind of got me is it was too long of a project to rank higher. There's some misses on there, of course, when you have nearly a 30 song album. So that was my only problem with it, I guess. It was better than Jesus is a King, of course, and I think I would rank it ahead of Ye as well. So
Definitely, it's obviously a solid project, but there are some misses with those part two tracks and stuff like that. So hopefully this album isn't so long. I really enjoyed the Wyoming run with the 8-song albums. So we'll see.
hopefully you can combine those two together, the shorter track list, with the sound you had on Donda.
Definitely, I think that could be pretty interesting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that sound later because I have a good point about that with this week's news. So stay tuned for that. You're gonna want to hear that. Moving on here to my last hot take, though. I think that Kanye and Drake will drop a track together this year. The last time they had a track together was Glow off of More Life, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
I mean, that's been a couple of years, so I think it'd be pretty cool to get a song from them. I mean, obviously they were beefing for many years, so I think they obviously put the beef aside for the Hoover concert, and I'm excited to see if that means they're going to get back in the studio together and make some songs. So if Drake was on Donda Ii, I mean, that'd be pretty crazy. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I definitely think the writing is on the wall for that. It's just a matter of if we get it. That's definitely the hope, for both of us, two of our more prominent artists. So it's definitely the hope. But I always, with Kanye, I never try and get my hopes too high. So
I know, because we keep talking about when Donda 2 is going to come out, but there's always the if.
Yeah,
There's always the
if Donda 2 is going to come out.
There's always the if. So we'll see. But moving on to this week's news in rap, we got to start off. ASAP Rocky and Rihanna announced that they're expecting a child. Big news.
My heart's hurting off that. That's why I got quiet real quick. I've loved those, what's been going on with Twitter with even bringing Drake in it a little bit. So, all the memes are funny and everything. Huge to see though. Happy for ASAP, of course.
Yeah, shout out to Rocky. I saw that Drake unfollowed both of them on Instagram. Do you think that's, is he in his feels a little bit? What do you think?
I do. It's kind of funny seeing all the memes with him at the Raptors game, of course.
Yeah.
He's always going to be in the spotlight, but, that may have hurt a little bit. Taking it back to the Take Care days, I just felt like they had such a great chemistry, either him and Rihanna or him and Nicki Minaj. And, where's he at with both of those two now?
Yeah, it's rough. But I mean, it's pretty cool to see Rocky and Rihanna. I mean, you look back, like she was in the Fashion Killer video. Attitude Rihanna should get it from her mama. I mean, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool that he secured the bag. So shout out to Rocky on that. But to the point about Drake unfollowing them, wouldn't that be so crazy to be at that level where people are watching your Instagram to see that you're unfollowing people?
Definitely. And it's just like I was saying just a little bit earlier, he's just in such a spotlight. Anything he does, it's just going to be, it's under a magnifying glass, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about it. So, I mean, we're part of the problem, but
yeah.
whatever. Next, we got to talk about some of the big drops this week. There were a lot of singles, couple albums, but overall, I thought it was a pretty good week for music. First, you had YG featuring J. Cole and Moneybagg Yo with Scared Money. 2 Chainz drops his album Dope Don't Sell Itself. G Herbo drops Locked In. Lupe Fiasco dropped Hustlers. Conway the Machine, Benny the Butcher, and Westside Gunn drop John Woo Flick. And Currency and The Alchemist drop a single for their project Continuance called Half Moon Mornings. Snot and ASAP Rocky also dropped Doja, but the biggest drop of the week has to be Saba dropping Few Good Things. Did you give this album a listen yet?
I did. I gave it a few listens today. Actually, it was, just in rotation all day, just trying to get my feel for it and everything. And I really like the project, of course. We talked about it a little bit over Snapchat and everything, what our favorite track was. I think everybody should give 2012 a listen. We came to an agreement right away that was the best track we liked off the album. So, what were your thoughts on the project?
I'm definitely going to throw 2012 in the episode because that is a great song. So especially if you're on Spotify, make sure to listen through that part because that song goes crazy. a line from that song that really stuck out to me. He said, "I can take you where it's rough. I mean the catacomb. All these bodies drop in same blocks that we played tag for some old shit. They pay back. So we escape it in the booth with the playback because this is the only place that we knew you were safe at." That's just a crazy line, and it's so personal. Saba is just one of those people, like many that have been affected by the violence in Chicago on such a deep level, and it's really impacted the person he is. And it is obviously so evident in his music. And it's just some of these songs are just so heartbreaking, but sometimes they sound so optimistic at the same time. If you look at some of those earlier songs, like from his career, like Smile and other tracks like that off of Care For Me, they don't sound so sad. But then if you look at the lyrics, I feel like it's like, hey, yeah, it's one of those songs where it sounds so good, but it's not a happy song.
Yeah, no, I love the tracks like that because you always get the TikToks, it's like Kendrick Lamar on swimming pools and it's like me dancing to it. But you look back and you read the lyrics and you're like, damn.
Yeah, definitely a hard-hitting album from Saba, though. I mean, he's just such an underrated artist. I feel like I've been aware of him for a couple of years, since probably about 2015, especially because he's from Chicago. So getting a lot of coverage in like Lyrical Lemonade and working with Chance puts him on a bigger radar. But I definitely think this is a project that could take him to the public stage bigger than any album he's dropped in the past. What do you think about that?
I mean, hopefully so. He did have a big gap in between his music, but I think he was going through the loss of his cousin in 2017, right before he had dropped his first project. So it's just I think if he more consistently drops, he can definitely grow. That's the hope, because this album, he killed it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the loss of his cousin, and then recently with the loss of Squeak from the Pivot Gang, he's really dealt with a lot of loss in his young life, and it's definitely sad to see. But I mean, he's making the best out of the situation and putting out music that people can use to cope with things they're going through. So definitely good to see with that.
Of course, I love when artists are able to do that. That's why guys like Logic were so prominent for me back in the day. It was just I don't think we've mentioned Logic. I think we did last week sparingly just with the album releases, but he was just so huge, and Under Pressure is one of my favorite albums of all time because of that. So
yeah, Logic obviously pretty big in my life too, especially when I was in high school. So love that shout out. Moving on to the next piece of news here, we got the trailer for the Kanye West documentary Genius. That's coming out soon on Netflix. Are you excited for this documentary? What are you thinking about this?
I'm so excited. That trailer just pumped me up. Honestly, it looks like it's going to be huge. It's not something where they've been recording for a couple of years. You were seeing clips from before Kanye was Kanye. I mean, this is going to be huge.
Definitely going to be very exciting to watch. It was actually available early through the Sundance Film Festival, I believe. You could watch the first episode. You had to pay to watch it. I was debating doing it, but then I was like, I want to experience it first. I feel like this is going to be like The Last Dance, where everybody's just talking about it on Twitter. When The Last Dance came out, that was like a huge moment. That's all my Twitter feed was. It was just everybody talking about the moments from The Last Dance. I feel like that's how this documentary is going to be as well, especially obviously because it's on Netflix, which is just so available by people. So I'm excited to see how people react to this documentary.
Definitely. And, back to The Last Dance a little bit, with it being a week by week thing for 3 weeks, I think it's going to be just as big. So just to touch on that a little bit.
Definitely very excited for that. Is there a specific Kanye moment from his career that you're hoping to see in this documentary?
So there's this video. It's the making of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It's like a 40-minute video, and it's just one of my favorite videos out there. I'm hoping so bad, and I think it's going to be in there, of course, that we see some of those My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy studio sessions, just from the suits they had to wear, to no cell phones, no tweeting, all of that, to the names he had in that studio at the same time. It's just I'm praying we get to they get to put some of that film in there.
No, that's definitely something special. I think the video you're talking about, is that the Most Unruly video? That video is
yes, that is an amazing video. Give that a watch, guys, if you ever get the chance.
Yeah, I saw that a couple of years ago and I was like, this is crazy. Like, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was obviously one of my favorites since it came out, but that just took the next level. The amount of respect I had for that whole process was like man,
Yes,
this is
it
great.
makes you appreciate the album so much more. And touching on Second Avenue a little bit, I was at Mon's house whenever I was watching that for the first time. It was a few years ago. It wasn't 10 years back in the day, of
Uh,
course, but that's just brings back one of those memories there. So
Classic, definitely good memory. Um, the moment that I hope to see in this documentary is actually the kind of related to yours, the aftermath of the Taylor Swift situation. Obviously, Kanye went on stage when Taylor Swift was accepting her award, said Beyonce had the best video of all time. He's not wrong, but but it was pretty crazy of Kanye to do, to take away this little girl's moment. But he
I
was
think
definitely clowned in the public eye for this. So I'm kind of be interested to see what was going on like right behind the scenes when this happened.
definitely, all the cameras were all the cameras are there. So we're hoping that they got footage on that and everything. Of course, the direct aftermath. But I think if Kanye does that nowadays, he's canceled. That's definitely seems like a cancelable offense. He was almost canceled back in 2009 with that. So
Yeah.
I think you add social media in the mix, and it's not a good scene for Kanye. But
Next news here, Tana Talk by Benny the Butcher is dropping next Friday. Are you excited for this project?
I am, touching on it last week with the single we had with J. Cole. It looks like it's gonna be a great project that Benny the Butcher is gonna drop. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. Ever since I've become a fan of Benny, he's really not missed on a project or a feature. So I'm pretty excited to see what he's going to deliver with this body of work. Are there any artists that you'd like to see him collaborate with on this project?
I mean, I don't think it's out of the question to think that we may get another J. Cole track. He's been so active recently that that's what I would like to see. But how about
Yep.
you?
I mean, J. Cole definitely been pretty active with that feature on YG and then last week with Benny. So exciting to see him back in the studio after last year's project. So I would like to see another J. Cole track as well. That'd be cool. But I want to see him and Pusha T on a track. Those two, I feel like, gotta have some great chemistry. So excited for that.
Yeah, that is we didn't mention Pusha T's album either, but that album looks like it's going to be another classic. So
Definitely. Yeah, we kind of talked about that last week, so I didn't want to put it on this week as well. I kind of wanted to mention some new ones. Obviously, we had to mention Kanye and Kendrick though. So
yeah, of course.
But yeah, definitely excited for Push because 18 Wheeler was the first song by Benny I heard, featuring Pusha T, of course, off of the Plugs I Met back in 2018. So pretty excited to see what those two would do.
Definitely. So moving on, the Donda II sessions look underway. Looks like they're working to get that album out in 18 days. I'm gonna keep just over the next couple weeks, just keep bringing up how much time left, just to show you my over is probably going to be right.
No, I think it's coming out on time. I said it. I know you have a different opinion on that, but we'll see. But man, the thing that never really clicked with me is that this is the first sequel in Kanye's career. Isn't that pretty interesting?
That is, you'd think he'd have one, but I mean, he doesn't, once you sit there and actually think about it. And it's just something we haven't had yet. So I'm definitely interested.
I think one of the interesting things when you're looking at a sequel to an album is the sound. Is it going to be a continuation of the sound from the last album or a continuation to the narrative? Because in my opinion, Donda doesn't really have a strong narrative, but it has a somewhat cohesive sound. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see how this is going to sound.
Definitely. And, it's not, he wasn't, rapping to storytell or anything. So that's interesting to the point you made. Are we going to get, something of the same there? Or very interesting to see though.
Especially if you look at Easy with the game that just dropped. I mean, if that makes the album, wouldn't it be weird to see Kanye say he's going to beat Pete Davidson's ass on an album named after his mom? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't feel right. Like Easy has so much of like a grittier sound and it's like a more aggressive sound than anything that was on Donda, in my opinion. You can make an argument for like Off the Grid, but he wasn't talking about beating his ex-wife's new boyfriend's ass on the song. So I don't know.
It'll be definitely interesting to see. And I wasn't thinking of it that way. That track almost fits a little more on the life of Pablo versus anything else. So
yeah, I could definitely see it on there, but I don't know. I'm excited to see where the sound goes this next project, especially because we've seen through Instagram stories some of the artists he's been working with on this project, allegedly, you look at Gunna, you look at IDK, 504, and Mike Dean, of course, can't exclude him when you're talking about a Kanye project. Travis Scott, Don Toliver, Vori, Marilyn Manson, all have been attached to this project. Is there one of these that sticks out that you're most excited for?
I think I may be most excited for the Don Toliver. If ends up being a feature on the album. Kanye loves to clip those features and everything the day before the album, but that would be the one I'm most excited for. How about you?
Obviously, probably biased. Got to be IDK. I mean, IDK was spotted wearing the Donda Doves merch. A lot of the other artists that have been working there also have been spotted with that merch. Could be something entirely different. Could have just had the merch. But he was also spotted on an Instagram story, and he was thanked for being in the studio. Said he came very early. I'm not surprised by that. IDK, from my week at No Label Academy, seems like he gets up very early. We did training early in the morning, and he was already done with his training at that point. So, and I mean, if you look at his verse on Dogs Don't Lie remix with Royce to Five Nices, I'm up at Harvard, class start in an hour. I mean, we started pretty early, and he had time to crank that verse out. Either that was Cap or he was up pretty early that morning. So I don't know. Definitely be excited to see him and Kanye work together, because I feel like Kanye is such an influence in his sound, in my opinion, that I'd be excited to see how those two work on a song together.
Yeah, it's definitely, if that gets on there, it's crazy to think about. You were shaking hands and right next to an artist that's on a Kanye West album. So that's just insane.
Would be pretty cool. So excited for that. I'd be very excited for him if that happens. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that was a pretty busy week. A lot of good drops, a lot of information coming with Kanye, and obviously we'll get more into that as we get closer to the album, because I'm sure there's going to be even more information as it nears the release date. So we'll see about that. But we wanted to move into 2 fan questions this week. First off, we got a question from Riley. She says, if you could only listen to one song for an entire week, what song would it be? This
was not as tough as I thought it would be. And it is Runaway by Kanye West featuring Pusha T for me. That song is it's an amazing song. And, something I thought about with it, it's a longer song. So, you almost have 2 different songs in there, where they're singing, and then just the beats in it. That's just amazing to listen to as well. So that was kind of an easy choice for me. How about you?
That definitely played a role in my decision. When I was going through some of my playlists, I have a playlist called All Time Favorites, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 capped at 100 songs, and then we're adding to the second one as I decided it's a classic. One song that I was like, this is a good option, was Curls by Mad Villain, which is MF Doom and Madlib's collab project. But the issue with this is it's such a short song that I was thinking about how tired of it I would get if that was the only song I could listen to for an entire week. I was trying to think about how much time I spend per week listening to music. I had close to 65,000 minutes on my Spotify Wrapped last year. That's a lot of minutes per week. And that'd be a lot of plays for one song. So I'm trying to think about what song I would choose. And I ended up going with 2 options. I could not nail it down to one. I went with Devil in a New Dress by Kanye or Pyramids by Frank Ocean. Like you mentioned, those are also 2 longer songs. Pyramids much longer than Devil in a New Dress, but Devil in a New Dress is just such a good song. One of my favorite features of all time from Rick Ross. I think it's a song that can be played in different scenarios, fit some different vibes. I could listen to it in the car. I could listen to it, working out. So I thought it was a pretty good choice.
That is. I respect both choices there. And I was doing a little math while you're talking there. It would be a little bit over 1,000 plays on a 9-minute track. So that'd be something, listening to it that many times. But I think
1,000 plays for a year.
No, for that'd be 1,000 plays of it for the week, right? Is my math wrong there?
Oh, if you listen to it the entire week.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a lot of plays. I'm not listening to music the entire week, but it's a lot. But then I also was thinking about Pyramids by Frank, because that is another song with beat switches. And then, that's a song where, like you said, with Runaway, it's almost different songs. That's a song that has a distinct split, I would say, but there's different sounds within those segments. So I think it's another song that could fit multiple different vibes. And I think it's such a long song that I wouldn't have to listen to it too many times throughout the week. Like if I'm just driving somewhere, a 15-minute drive, 1.5 times, and I don't think I get tired of it. So I don't think that's too bad.
Definitely. I misunderstood the question a little bit. I thought it was just, listening to the song on repeat. That drive you crazy a little bit, but I think it's obtainable.
Yeah, I mean, that would drive me crazy. I don't think there's a single song that I could listen to.
No, that's what that was my thought process here. I got 2 different tracks, so it's but that was a great question though. I enjoyed answering that.
Definitely a hard question, but interesting to think about.
All right, moving on to our second question from our boy Lucas Hofer in Blono. What video game has your favorite soundtrack of all time?
This is a good question, but I don't think there's too many answers. I think the obvious answer is Grand Theft Auto. Specifically, I'm going with Grand Theft Auto 5 because it's the one that I played the most. When I was growing up, I didn't have an Xbox until after GTA 4 was out, definitely. And so I didn't get GTA 4, and then I just got GTA 5 when it came out. And I'll get that story in a minute. But I mean, if you look at this game, there's so many different radio stations with so many different sounds and so many different songs. Obviously, my favorite radio station has to be Radio Los Santos. Songs like Garbage by Tyler the Creator, R. Cali by A$AP Rocky, Smokin' and Riding by Freddie Gibbs, Collard Greens by Schoolboy Q, ADHD by Kendrick. These are just such classic songs that, I mean, I think it's the obvious choice. You could also look at the collaborations they've done with like Flying Lotus and Frank Ocean and Danny Brown, giving them some choice on the playlist. I think it's pretty cool. So I think that's my choice.
Definitely. And that's definitely a respectable choice and everything. They just killed it with just having all these tracks on there. Although, Radio Los Santos, that was my secondary playlist. I was more of a West Coast Classics type of guy. So
okay. West Coast Classics, respectable.
Yeah, that introduced me to a lot of music, from like NWA, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. It was just that was a very good choice, but mine's different. Luckily, we didn't have the same answer on that.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to get to yours a little bit, but I got to ask you, how old were you when GTA 5 came out, or when did you get it?
I believe that came out in 2013. I would have been turning 12 probably when I got the game. I think I got it for my 12th birthday. And that was just, it was a crazy game and everything. Probably shouldn't have been playing it at that age. And an even funnier story with that is, I remember I would bring my PS3 over to, 2nd Avenue, Mon-Juan's, and, play it over there. I'm surprised you don't remember that, because I used to just grind it there and everything. And it was so weird, having songs like just NWA tracks playing while I'm at my grandparents' house.
Yeah, I mean,
that was like the most awkward part with it, but
yeah, you're just at the strip club and Ma's making some tortillas in the kitchen, classic. But that's pretty funny. You mentioned how old you were. I was thinking about GTA 5. The story of how I got GTA 5 is a pretty good one. So I think it came out when I was a sophomore in high school. So at this time, I'm playing sports. I'm not even old enough to have a job. So the only money I really have is from my birthday and from Christmas. And GTA came out in like the fall. So my birthday is in February. Christmas is in December, obviously. I'm pretty far away from the last time I got some money, not from my parents, but I needed to get this game. So somehow we ended up at my mom's family reunion, and they wanted to play some game where there was like a hula hoop or like a circle on the ground in the grass, and it was super long grass. And I don't know what the objective of the game was, but they threw like $40 of quarters in the grass and just told us to like grab it. We took turns grabbing it. And I ended up getting like $30 of quarters. That's like dozens of quarters. And my pockets are just filling up like a cup. And afterwards I was like, Mom, listen, I got half the money. I need you to take me to Walmart. Please buy the other half. Sure enough, my mom bought me the other half, and I paid for the other half in quarters. Shout out to Amy. I hope she remembers that. It's funny because I was asking my Uncle Ray about this. If he had to pick a favorite video game soundtrack, what would it be? And I told him mine was GTA and his was also GTA. He was like, your parents let you play GTA? And I was like, yeah, like I don't think they know. Like I'm sure they know a little bit about what GTA is, but they didn't like watch me play it. So I don't know, but yeah, shout out to them for getting me GTA.
Definitely shout outs.
So what was your choice here though?
My choice was this. I was a huge LeBron fan back in the day. Still am. But mine was NBA 2K14. I've touched on it a little bit with our very first video, but it was handpicked by LeBron, which made it a little more sentimental. Of course, he had tracks like "Can't Hold Us" by Macklemore on there, "Clint Eastwood" by the Gorillaz, "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins, "Hate Me Now" by Nas, "Now or Never" by Kendrick, and "All of the Lights," of course. I mean, it was just such a great soundtrack. Just that LeBron handpicked, which hasn't been done since or before that. So Jay-Z did it the year before, but it was cool to see it by an athlete and the cover athlete at that. And I love that cover as well. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a pretty good choice. My one thing that pushes GTA over 2K is the explicit versions. I mean, I don't know. Some of those songs are just like ruined by the clean versions on 2K.
Definitely.
Whereas when you're playing GTA, you're just driving down the street, shooting somebody. You hear the cuss words in your headphones. And you're like, man, this just feels so much more right than 2K. Like, I don't know. Like some of those songs don't even make sense in 2K. Like Mo Bamba was in 2K.
Yeah, that was
like
it is always interesting to hear, like the sports soundtracks, and it's just blank, 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 blank. So that is a respectable point.
Yeah, but I definitely am not mad at that take. I agree with you that it is pretty cool to see, what the athletes are listening to. So, it's like the Obama playlist at the end of the year when Obama drops whatever songs he's listening to and whatever movies and books he's watching and reading. So pretty cool just to see what somebody you kind of look up to is what entertainment they're engaging in. So pretty cool to see.
I think that about wraps it up for this week, though. Just want to say thank you to everybody, of course. What are your thoughts, on this episode or anything else?
Man, I think after our talk this episode, I'm really excited for 2022. I mean, so many albums to look forward to. We put those hot takes out there. We got to see if some of them come true or not. We'll definitely have to follow up on those at the end of the year and see how many came true. I think some of them weren't so hot, so some will come true, but some of them might not come true. So definitely excited to see how those.
We'll see what happens. See how it plays out. I'm ready to pump out these album reviews or just get to talking more news and everything, of course.
Definitely. Since we started the podcast, there hasn't been like one of those huge albums come out. I mean, I love this Saba album, but it's not on the level that Donda Ii would be. So really excited for that to drop if it drops.
Yeah, big if there, but we'll see what happens, of course. No telling with Kanye.
No telling. But hey, you know what there is no if about? That's if Second Avenue podcast is dropping on Monday. Every Monday, it's coming out. So hey, we'll see you guys next Monday.
See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.